So what's going on, guys? For those of you that don't know, my name is Korean Carey and this is my YouTube channel. Hey, I am really sorry that it's been about 6 weeks since I have posted a video. However, there is a legitimate excuse for this. I lost my voice, I'm not joking you, 6 weeks ago on Friday. It has been almost 6 weeks, 5.5 weeks I lost my voice. You can still hear it's a little bit different, but it's coming back strong. So we're almost there. I don't know how in the world that happens. You lose your voice for 6 weeks, but I did. It was miserable. I like to talk a lot. If most of you don't know, I do. So that was an issue. But anyway, I wanted to talk about kind of the theme of this video is going to be when chaos strikes. So whenever we're feeling lonely, depressed, lustful, greedy, anxious, stressed, any of these things, what is happening when we're dealing with all of these things? And so for me, I've kind of identified a few things recently that God has been working with me through, because all the things I just listed, those are all things I deal with. And so God is working on me in certain areas of my mind to be able to get me through those things. And so the first thing that I've learned to do is check my thoughts. What am I thinking about on a daily basis? Am I thinking of godly things, or am I consumed with my stress? Am I consumed with my lust, my greed, my anxiety? Are those the things that I'm pondering day in and day out, all the hours of the day? And if so, something's got to change, because that's only going to lead to more despair. And so Romans 8:7 says, a mind in the flesh is at enmity against God. So basically, when we're letting our mind run however it wants to run, it's going to be an enemy of God. It not only doesn't work for God, but we're actually working against God when we let our mind run wild like that. So we've got to put a stop to that and start controlling the things that we think about. The mind is powerful in both directions. It's extremely powerful in the negative way to draw us away from God, but it's also extremely powerful in the positive way to draw us into God and to get us back on track with what God wants for our lives. And so Proverbs 16:32 says, he who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his mind is more powerful than he who takes a city. So it's putting pretty clearly there. If we can get control of our mind and our thoughts, that's an extremely powerful thing. If we can get a hold of that, we start to break the strongholds that Satan has in our lives. We start to rip those things away and take control and give it back to God in our lives. So the next verse, Isaiah 26:3 says, you will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. So God is promising in Isaiah, if we keep our minds on God, if we keep our minds focused on God, he'll keep us in perfect peace. Now, that's not a promise that all of our problems are going to go away. It's not a promise that life's going to get easy. It's none of that. But it is a promise that God will provide us peace and comfort in those times when we're experiencing him deeply, even in the times that are tough. We want God's peace in these times. And so if we want God's peace, we've got to keep our mind focused on him. We've got to keep our minds from the flesh, from our world, from our natural bent against God. We're naturally, Romans 8:7 being an enmity against God, that's the way we were born. That's the way we're bent to be. So we've got to work really hard to get from there to inside of God's will for our lives. And so again, if we get our minds back on track for God, everything starts to change and we start to experience peace. But how do we get that? Well, Romans 12:2 pretty specifically says, do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So how do we get our mind back on God? Well, we renew our mind. But going a little bit further, how do we renew our mind? Well, we can go to 2 Corinthians 10:5 for that part. And it says, we demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. So we've got to work extremely hard, especially in the beginning. When we're working really hard at transforming our minds, we renew our minds by taking every single thought captive. Every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, we take that captive and we crush it. Now, like Billy Graham says in one of his sermons, you can't control the thoughts that are coming in. That's like birds. It's like birds flying over you. You can't control the birds that are flying over you, but you can decide not to let them nest in your hair. And so if evil thoughts come into your mind, that's one thing. Get them out, flush them out. Don't let them nest in your hair. Don't ponder them. Don't let them make your day worse. Don't let them take you away from God even further. Take every thought captive, and I promise you, if you'll take every thought captive, you'll experience all that God has for you, and you'll experience a peace that you've never experienced before when you've decided to do things your way. take your thoughts captive and experience God and experience His peace on a full new level. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great week.